Welcome to a list of mountains so visually striking, you might assume they were sculpted, not formed by nature. Every mountain here might be called the most beautiful in the world, whether because of its symmetry, its setting, or the legends that surround it. These mountains were chosen because beauty is their defining characteristic. They're consistently described as breathtaking from almost every angle, and they've earned that status in the eyes of climbers, photographers, locals, and thousands of people who have seen them. As the list goes on, the case for the most beautiful mountain only gets stronger, not just because of shape or scenery, but because of cultural weight, history, and, to be honest, a bit of my personal opinion. Number 2 on this list might be the most stunning place in all of North America. Number 8 is as beautiful as it is dangerous and iconic. And the final mountain? It's been called the most beautiful in the world since the 1960s. But first, let's start with number 1, a near-perfect triangle rising from the heart of the Alps, the most recognizable mountain silhouette in the world, and still, somehow, even more dramatic in real life. This is the Matterhorn, standing 4,478 meters or 14,692 feet above sea level. It straddles the border between Switzerland and Italy, towering above the famous mountain village of Zermatt. Its shape is almost unnatural, a near-symmetrical pyramid with 4 sharp ridges and steep faces, rising straight out of the valley with no foothills to soften the view. John Ruskin called it the most noble cliff in Europe. Others have described it simply as a frozen blade. The Matterhorn silhouette is so distinctive it's been used for over a century as the logo of Toblerone chocolate, and more recently as the basis for Disneyland's first mountain-themed ride. What most people don't realize is that the Matterhorn was once thought to be unclimbable. Before 1865, dozens of attempts had failed, some dramatically, leading to widespread belief that its summit might be unreachable. That changed with Edward Whymper's ascent, which made headlines across Europe, but even that success ended in tragedy. 4 of Whymper's teammates died during the descent when their rope snapped, a story that added to the mountain's mystique and continues to haunt its climbing history. But its visual power isn't just about shape. The Matterhorn rises over 3,000 vertical meters, or nearly 10,000 feet above the surrounding terrain. In morning light, it casts a shadow that can stretch 20 kilometers across the glacier basin. Its isolation and symmetry make it a favorite subject for landscape photographers. In winter, cloud inversions often wrap around the base, while the summit floats above in full sun, a visual effect that looks unreal even in person. It also holds a darker record. Since its first ascent in 1865, over 500 climbers have died on its slopes, not because of extreme difficulty, but because of how often it's attempted. Fatalities are often caused by loose rock, sudden weather shifts, or exhaustion after late starts. And yet, that danger only adds to its allure. As alpinist Gaston Rebuffat once said, "In the Alps, all roads lead to the Matterhorn. It's the final goal, the dream, the test." No mountain on this list is more instantly recognizable. And for many, no mountain is more beautiful. The next mountain doesn't sit in the Alps or the Himalayas. It stands alone in the Canadian wilderness. Sharp, glaciated, and mirrored in a lake so perfectly still, it almost looks artificial. Photographers have been trying to capture it for decades, but no photo ever really matches what it looks like in person. This is mountain number 2. Welcome to Mount Assiniboine, rising to 3,618 meters, or 11,870 feet above sea level. It sits deep in the Canadian Rockies, straddling the border between British Columbia and Alberta. It's often called the Matterhorn of the Rockies, and for good reason. The sharp, isolated pyramid stands dramatically above alpine lakes, meadows, and glaciers, with no nearby peaks competing for attention. Its prominence is equally dramatic. Assiniboine rises over 1,500 meters, nearly 5,000 feet above the surrounding valleys, making it one of the most dominant skyline features in all of Western Canada. In 2021, Parks Canada listed it among the 10 signature views of the Rockies, a designation reserved for landscapes considered nationally iconic. But what sets Assiniboine apart isn't just shape, it's reflection. On clear mornings, the mountain mirrors perfectly into Lake Magog, creating one of the most photographed scenes in all of North American wilderness. Also, there's no road here. Getting to Assiniboine requires a multi-day hike, a long backcountry ski, or a helicopter drop. That remoteness keeps it quiet and keeps the setting pristine. It was first climbed in 1901 by James Outram, who called it a mountain with the air of complete supremacy. Today, the area is part of Mount Assiniboine Provincial Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site protected for both its scenery and its biodiversity. Despite its popularity in photos, the summit is rarely reached. The standard route involves exposed scrambling in sections of serious rockfall danger, but from the lakes below, it doesn't matter who reaches the top. Mount Assiniboine is one of the clearest arguments that a mountain doesn't have to be massive to be unforgettable. It just has to be shaped like this. The next mountain takes us far from the Rockies, to the windswept coast of western Iceland. Here, one mountain curves so perfectly, it looks like it was drawn by hand. It's been used in films, posters, and travel ads for years, but nothing compares to seeing it with ocean mist curling around its base. This is mountain number 3. Welcome to Kirkjufell. It rises just 463 meters, or 1,519 feet, on the Snæfellsnes Peninsula in western Iceland. And yet, it's become one of the most photographed mountains in the world. The name means Church Mountain, a reference to its unmistakable curved profile, narrow, steep-sided, and rising in layers like a spire. When viewed from across the nearby Kirkjufellsfoss waterfall, the scene looks like something out of a fantasy film. And, in fact, it was. Kirkjufell appeared in Game of Thrones as the mountain shaped like an arrowhead, a key landmark in the far north. But even before that, it was already a national symbol, used in Icelandic tourism campaigns and nature documentaries worldwide. The shape is a result of thousands of years of erosion, shaped by both glaciers and the sea. Geologically, Kirkjufell is made of layers of volcanic rock and sediment stacked like a natural amphitheater, giving it a rhythm and texture unlike any other Icelandic peak. During the last ice age, nearby glaciers carved the land around it, leaving Kirkjufell jutting out alone, like a fossilized wave rising from the coast. What sets Kirkjufell apart isn't height or difficulty, it's contrast. The green slopes, black volcanic rock, white snowcaps, and surrounding ocean create a layered palette that changes with every season. In summer, wildflowers grow at the base. In winter, it becomes a backdrop for the northern lights. Climbing it is surprisingly dangerous. Despite its low elevation, the steep terrain and loose rock have caused multiple fatal accidents, and local authorities now discourage untrained hikers from attempting the summit. Kirkjufell isn't epic in size, but in terms of visual identity, few mountains anywhere in the world are more instantly recognizable, or more striking. The next mountain brings us to Norway, to a fjordside monolith that rises straight out of the sea. Its granite face is so steep and clean, it almost looks artificial. Locals once believed it was cursed. Today, it's the national mountain of Norway. This is mountain number 4. This is Stetind. It rises 1,392 meters, or 4,567 feet, above the Tysfjord in northern Norway, and it doesn't rise gently. It shoots up from the water in a single clean sweep of dark granite, with no foothills, no ridgelines, just a massive vertical tower surrounded by sea. From a distance, it looks almost unreal. Norwegian philosopher Peter Wessel Zapfe described it as the anvil of the gods. And when a national poll was held in 2002, Stetind was officially voted Norway's national mountain, beating out taller and more famous peaks by a wide margin. Its symmetry and isolation make it one of the most dramatic landforms in Scandinavia. And because the surrounding terrain is so close to sea level, the mountain appears even taller than it actually is. Stetind's climbing history is just as bold as its shape. The first successful ascent didn't happen until 1910, after several failed attempts by international teams. Even today, the standard route involves exposed scrambling in alpine rock, with severe weather and sudden fog often complicating the climb. But most visitors don't come to summit it. They come to stand at its base and stare. The fjord, the light, the angles, everything seems engineered for one purpose: to make this mountain unforgettable. Stetind doesn't just dominate the landscape, it defines it. Next mountain takes us south, to the heart of the Dolomites in northern Italy, a cluster of jagged limestone towers rising above green valleys and alpine meadows. They've appeared in World War I history, modern films, and classical paintings. This is mountain number 5. These are the Tre Cime di Lavaredo. The tallest stands at 2,999 meters, or 9,839 feet above sea level. But it's not about height, it's about shape. 3 massive limestone spires, perfectly aligned, rising out of a high plateau like giant stone teeth. Located in the Stetind Dolomites of northern Italy, the Tre Cime are among the most photographed and painted peaks in Europe. Their pale color and vertical faces change appearance depending on the light, glowing gold at sunrise, then shifting to gray and violet by dusk. The surrounding area adds to the impact. Nearby ridgelines like Stetind, famous for their layered cliffs and grass-covered spines, help make this part of the Dolomites one of the most visually surreal landscapes in the Alps. And in winter, the whole region transforms. Skiers ride lifts to panoramic slopes that wrap around the base of the spires, not to reach the summit, but to glide through wide alpine bowls with front-row views of the towers. But Tre Cime isn't just scenic. It was a front line during World War I. A brutal mountain war was fought across these cliffs, and you can still see tunnels, bunkers, and shrapnel embedded in the rock today. Despite the vertical faces, the area is surprisingly accessible. Panoramic trails loop around the massif, giving hikers close-range views without the need for technical gear. It's one of the few places where casual tourists and world-class climbers share the same mountain, just from very different angles. Tre Cime has become one of the defining symbols of the Dolomites, both for its natural architecture and the history written into its slopes. Now we head to the far south, to the windswept border between Argentina and Chile. Here, 2 granite spires erupt from the ice in shapes so dramatic they look hand-sculpted. Framed by glaciers, wind, and Patagonian light, they've become icons of raw, untamed beauty. These are the mountains at number 6. These are Cerro, Torre, and Fitz. They rise from the southern Patagonian icefield, along the border between Argentina and Chile, in one of the most remote and weather-exposed mountain regions in the world. Cerro Torre stands at 3,128 meters, or 10,262 feet. Fitz is taller, at 3,405 meters, or 11,171 feet above sea level, but their global recognition has nothing to do with altitude. Cerro Torre is shaped like a vertical spear. Its narrow summit is often crowned by a massive rime cap, frozen mist layered into wind-sculpted formations. Fitz is heavier and more serrated. Its main face rises nearly 2,000 vertical meters from base to summit, a wall of pink granite flanked by smaller towers. Both peaks rise directly above the Patagonian steppe. There are no foothills to soften the skyline, just flat plains and then sudden vertical stone. From the nearby town of El Chalten, Fitz dominates the horizon. Its outline became the logo of the Patagonia clothing brand, one of few commercial logos based on a real mountain. Cerro Torre, by contrast, is often hidden. Even standing nearby, you might wait days without seeing it, but when it appears, jagged, symmetrical, and covered in wind-formed ice, it doesn't look like anything else on Earth. At sunrise, the peaks catch first light while the valleys remain in shadow. Yvon Chouinard, founder of Patagonia and an early climber in the region, once said, "Fitz is the most beautiful mountain I've ever seen. If I could be buried under one, that would be it." Both peaks have complex climbing histories, but most visitors come for the views. On clear days, their outlines are unmistakable, and their setting, unlike anywhere else on Earth. Next, we go far east, to the Himalayas, a mountain that's not the tallest, but might be the most photogenic in the entire range. It rises like a shard above the clouds, and has become one of the most iconic images in all of mountaineering. This is mountain number 7. This is Dablam. It rises to 6,812 meters, or 22,349 feet, in eastern Nepal, in the heart of the Khumbu region. It's not among the highest peaks in the Himalayas, but visually, it often steals the scene. Dablam stands alone, with steep ridges that drop off on all sides, a pointed summit, and hanging glaciers that drape off its flanks like frozen jewelry. The name means mother's necklace in Sherpa. Local legend says the ridges represent a mother's arms, and the hanging glacier is the Dablam, a traditional pendant worn by Sherpa women. It's one of the few major mountains whose name is entirely based on its appearance. For many trekkers heading to Everest Base Camp, Dablam is the first mountain that stops them in their tracks. It dominates the skyline above the trail for days. From every angle, it reveals a different outline, but always the same, impossible sharpness. The first ascent was made in 1961 by a team of New Zealand, American, and British climbers, including Barry Bishop and Mike Gill. Since then, it's become a popular objective among experienced mountaineers, though still technically challenging and dangerous, especially because of seracs and avalanche risk. It's also one of the most photographed peaks in Asia. National Geographic has featured it multiple times, and climbers, even those heading to 8,000ers, often say Dablam is the one they remember most. There are taller peaks, there are harder climbs, but in terms of presence, Dablam often overshadows them all. Now we move even higher, to the edge of the Karakoram. This next mountain is feared, respected, and photographed like no other. Its slopes have taken lives, but its shape has inspired climbers, poets, and travelers for over a century. This is mountain number 8. This is K2. It rises to 8,611 meters, or 28,251 feet, making it the second highest mountain on Earth. But many climbers and photographers agree, it might be the most beautiful. Unlike Everest, K2 is not hidden in a sea of neighboring peaks. It stands tall and alone, a near-perfect triangle of rock and ice rising from the Baltoro Glacier in northern Pakistan. Its profile is iconic. Steep, angular ridges, uninterrupted from base to summit, giving the appearance of a giant stone pyramid balanced on its point. No terraces, no false peaks, no soft edges. American photographer Galen Rowell once called K2 the most beautiful mountain in the world, and Reinhold Messner, the first man to climb all 14 8,000ers, said it was the mountain of mountains, not because it's the highest, but because it looks exactly like what a mountain is supposed to be. The name itself reflects that rawness. It was labeled K2 during the 1856 Great Trigonometrical Survey of India because it was the second peak catalogued in the Karakoram range. It has no deep mythological name, no romantic etymology, just a code which somehow fits. The Balti people call it Chagori, meaning Great Mountain, but even locally, K2 has stuck. Its isolation enhances the impact. It rises over 3,000 meters, nearly 10,000 feet above the glacier at its base, with no gentle slopes to interrupt the rise. Seen from Concordia or the Godwin-Austen Glacier, it appears suddenly and completely dominating the sky. But the mountain's beauty also carries weight. K2 is infamous for its difficulty. Its summit has one of the highest fatality rates among 8,000-meter peaks, not because it's impossible, but because it's unforgiving. Still, people return, not for the record, but for the view. Even among climbers who've summited Everest, many say K2 is the one that stayed in their minds. Both terrifying and stunning. Every ridge, every shadow, every fracture of ice seems sharpened, as if nature carved it with intention. It's one of the most dangerous mountains in the world, and for many, the most beautiful. Finally, we arrive in the Cordillera Blanca of Peru, one of the most photographed regions in the Andes. This last mountain isn't the tallest or the hardest, but it's been called the most beautiful in the world since the 1960s, and the photographs speak for themselves. This is mountain number 9. This is Alpamayo. It rises to 5,947 meters, or 19,511 feet above sea level in the northern Peru. Surrounded by glaciers, turquoise lakes, and steep granite walls, it's often called the most beautiful mountain in the world. That title isn't just opinion. In 1966, a German photography and climbing magazine ran an international survey among climbers and photographers. Out of all the submissions, Alpamayo was voted number 1. And ever since, it's carried that reputation, not as the highest or most famous, but as the most visually perfect. Its western face is what made it famous. Seen from nearby ridgelines, the mountain appears as a flawless, steep pyramid, with icy flutes cascading down from the summit like frozen drapery. Each line is symmetrical, each angle sharp, and the entire face shines white against the deep blue sky of the high Andes. It's not visible from any major road. Reaching a clear view of Alpamayo takes days of trekking through the Santa Cruz Valley, crossing passes and weaving through high-altitude grasslands. That isolation makes the moment more powerful. You don't stumble across Alpamayo, you earn it. Climbers first summited it in 1957 via a long glacial route on the northern side, but the iconic west face wasn't climbed until 1975, when Italian alpinists scaled the fluted ice to the summit in a route that's now considered a classic. Even today, it's one of the most photographed mountains in the southern hemisphere. National Geographic, Lonely Planet, and countless outdoor publications have used its image on covers. And for those who've seen it in person, even from a distance, the symmetry is unforgettable. There are harder mountains, there are higher ones, but few, if any, look as close to perfection as Alpamayo. After witnessing all of this beauty, which of these mountains would you travel across the world just to see with your own eyes? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this one, please leave a like and make sure to subscribe. Also check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.